true. That is true.
Right. Thanks everyone again for joining us for another WKS podcast. This time I'm with Jordan and Jake of a band called Quorum. How you doing, guys?
We're good.
Doing good, thank you.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you very much. Yeah. So do you want to start off telling us a bit about like how you first got into music?
Jake?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've been around music all my life. I've always had my dad very into music. CDs have always been around, be it like old school Guns N' Roses stuff or Red Hot Chili Peppers or Green Day or something like that. That's always been around. So to be honest, it was just natural for me to get into it, playing it at some point in my life.
Sure. Yeah. So me and Jake grew up together. We were in, I think it was like primary school together. Maybe since we were like 4. So yeah, like best mates growing up. And yeah, I got into music mainly, like especially through like guitar music and stuff like that. Mainly through like you, your brother, who was our drummer Mac.
Because we wouldn't shut up about it.
Yeah, basically, I just couldn't escape it being friends with you. So here we are now.
Okay, brilliant.
I was dragged into it.
So, Jordan, you're a guitarist, is that right? You said
Guitarist and vocalist, yeah.
Okay. What about Jake? What do you play?
I'm the other guitarist.
Lead guitarist.
Okay, superb. So, basically, what inspired you then to make music?
So, I mean, yeah, being like growing up together, as I say, yeah, going back to what we said before, growing up together and like sort of forming that love of music. Well, I say being dragged into that love of music. Yeah, I think it was fairly natural as we started like sort of getting older into our sort of early teens and that, and then wanting to sort of, I think everybody grows up seeing like rock stars and wanting to be them. Do you know what I mean? Everybody has that sort of, so through like learning guitar, you started learning guitar, I started learning bass when I was really young. And then through there, and just obviously like being friends and keeping in contact, I think that it just naturally came that at some point we'd start trying to make music together.
Right.
And then it sort of just progressed from there really, and we're sort of here where we are now. Yeah.
So how long's Quorum been together then?
It's a hard question.
Yeah, in various forms, probably 4 or 5 years now, I think.
Yeah.
But this current situation with us two, my brother and our bass player Noah, I think it's been 2.5 years now.
About 2.5 years. All that current lineup. But Quorum's like a weird thing that sort of people have like dipped in and out of and come here and there. It's just become a weird, I don't even know what it is anymore. I guess it's a band. It's more of an idea now. It's just sort of like, yeah. So like, yeah, as Jake said, yeah, current lineup, Quorum, what it is now, about 2.5 years for sure.
Okay, brilliant. So what music have you guys got out there now?
Well, at the moment, we're pushing the 3 songs we put out last year that sort of stemmed from promotion through the lockdown. All available on like Spotify and all that usual stuff. If you want to find it, it's out there on Spotify, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. But we're now looking more towards what we've actually just recorded, which is a full EP, not singles here and there. We've got a full thing together. We're waiting for the masters back now.
Yeah,
Okay.
But it's different but the same. It's an evolution of what we've already done.
sure.
It's starting to go back down that path of, we're starting to hit a familiar stride rather than the previous stuff we had.
Right.
Right. It's a bit more punkish, the old stuff.
Yeah, the old, I like our really old stuff, like the first sort of stuff we recorded was real sort of, we're angry teenagers and rock stars smashing guitars and stuff. I think since then, especially with the last 3 songs we wrote, or the last 3 songs that we released, our latest 3 songs that come out, a real different step to that. And I think, our new EP is, but like sonically, and with songwriting and everything, I think it's a real, I think it's so lame and cringy to say it's an evolution because we're always changing. But I think now we've started to, this new EP especially was a real exploration sonically and how we write together and how Quorum sounds, especially at this current time anyway, because I'm sure it'll...
Okay. So how would you describe the sound, genre-wise for Quorum?
It's a really hard question. I think now I guess we'd be more sort of like pop, rocky, indie-ish sort of. I think genre is really, really hard thing to nail down, because especially with like bands like us, like indie music. Like indie music doesn't really mean anything. Do you know what I mean? So if you say that, oh, they're an indie band, they could be anyone. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really... So I guess like there's a lot of like pop influences in what we do, but then as well as that, there's like influences from like rock and punk and metal and like hip hop, like there's a real combination. I think that now we just sound like us, which sounds really lame.
No, I get it. No, I get it, definitely, yeah. So who you know, who's your inspiration then musically? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would get a vastly different answer depending on which member of the band you asked.
Okay.
So, I mean, Mac and Noah aren't here, but like for me, I'm influenced by like, I think it's hard. Like, I think you're influenced by everything you hear, whether you like it or not. So even if you hear something you hate, you're influenced by that. It's like, I don't want to sound like that. For me, I listen to like a lot of like pop music, house music and stuff like that. Whereas, but then it like ranges to like metal and rock and like real old classic stuff like that, as I'm sure you're completely different.
Yeah, well, growing up, I was much more exposed to the heavier side of music. Like the lighter stuff I was listening to was like Guns N' Roses. Slash is still one of my favorite guitarists of all time. And then as I was getting older, I started listening to like hard rock, heavy metal. I started getting into people like Zakk Wylde. I started getting into like John Petrucci and stuff like that. And obviously, we're nothing like Dream Theater,
for sure.
But we're able to take stuff from that and transform it into something vastly different. Those inspirations don't have to purely be how many notes can you play on the fretboard per second. You can learn how they use melody and stuff like that and sort of bring it in. At the moment, I've been listening to like a lot of Steve Vai and the way he sort of plays his guitar almost vocally and stuff like that, and using that in melodies and learning how he constructs that from different scales and all that kind of stuff. And although you don't need to know music theory, knowing all this sort of is opening up new pathways to sort of get across what you're saying. Like your vocabulary as a lyricist, learning that sort of stuff is helping me bring that out of the guitar as well.
Sure.
Right. You say lyrics and stuff. So who's the main sort of songwriter in the band?
That will be me.
Okay, brilliant. So what's your sort of creative process then? How's it work for you?
I mean, sometimes it doesn't at all. It's a really tough one, like songwriting, because I feel like sometimes I'll get an idea and I can get sort of a basis of a song together in 10 minutes and build on that. And sometimes I'll have like a 3-chord progression or a synth pattern or a drum beat that I can slog away at for 2 weeks and just like kill myself over. So I think it's just very dependent on the time. It's hard. I think some people have a real religious and like routine. This is how I write songs. This is what I'm going to do. For me, I think they just sort of happen. I don't think there's no formula or anything like that. Sometimes they come together. Sometimes they're not very good. Sometimes I love them and hate them the next day. And they just, I think I just write a lot, and just writing a lot, you end up finding little bits of things that you like.
Right. So did you find that during the lockdowns, your creative process and your writing got more or less, or, you know, how did it alter for you?
Way more. So a lot of especially this EP that we've got coming out in the soon, was a lot of that was written during the first lockdown, just out of sheer, I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything. So I sat at home and, well, we all sat and wrote as much as we could, and it culminated in what this EP is now. And I think it was a really strange time because I've not been a massive fan of the lockdowns personally. I've really struggled with them. But then at the same time, that has given us a lot of time and ways to be more creative.
It's time we wouldn't have had otherwise. Sure. We've been able to sort of channel that into this, whereas we'd have been trying to, not saying it's a good thing, obviously, but we would have other things going on which would distract from the writing process.
Sure.
And as almost a silver lining, if you can take that from it, it's given us that opportunity to really focus on it and really nail it down. And whereas before we might have had to go that's good, and we'll go with that because it sounds good, we've been able to take the time and go, but it could be better. Yeah. And we're able to really work on adding in extra parts, and
it's been a lot more honed, and just everything seems, with what we're doing now, seems way more deliberate.
Right.
Everything, like, rather than just I'll chuck that in because it works. It's like we've crafted it a lot more. I think songwriting wise and like musically, it's a lot more crafted for us. But then also, it's like I feel like the lockdown's been a good and a bad thing having all that time, because you do, like, I found myself like you like force yourself to write almost, because I'm like, I've got all this time, I'm gonna write, and then that can be so stressful because like trying to write when you're just not inspired.
Yeah, I get that. So have you got your own studio type scenario, or do you actually go and pay studio time, or?
So we go and pay studio time when we've got everything written. I've actually got this spare room now in my flat, which I built over this lockdown, which is a sort of studio-esque sort of room in which we'd like just like write and demo and stuff like that. And then once we've got things written and like guide tracked and like demoed very roughly, that's when we would then go to the studio and record things properly.
Okay, superb. So who, as a band then, who would you most like to collaborate with?
To collaborate with? Wow.
Again, this will probably differ from person to
For
person.
sure. God, that's such a hard question. There's so many. I mean, it's really easy to say like people who would, like people who I like and would listen to all the time. So I feel like it'd be really easy to say I'd love to collaborate with like the 1975 or Pale Waves or bands like that. But then at the same time, I think if you told me now you can collaborate with anybody, I think I'd just do something wild like Beyonce, because why not? Do you know what I mean? Just go for something crazy. Yeah, Beyonce, why not?
I can't argue that.
That'd be mad. That'd be wild.
No, I'd probably go for, and this is obvious to you because you know me, but I'd go for someone like Brendan Urie.
Sure.
I love his style. I love his voice. I think he's a fantastic songwriter, and being able to do something with him would be absolutely incredible. I think everything he's touched so far has been pretty much gold.
I wouldn't want to sing in front of Brendan Urie.
No.
All right. So musically then, guys, you can say this individually, what have you. What do you reckon's the best bit of advice you've been given?
Of advice we've been given. I mean, it always goes back to your Jake's dad's got a great piece of advice. Every time we have a gig, he pulls us aside and says, "Play it like it's Wembley," which has sort of become a bit of a running joke within the band now. But I think there's a lot to be said for it, really. I think he said it so many times it's lost meaning now. But I think I think the essence of what he means, just having that conviction in everything you do, because even if it's like with writing or interviewing or gigs or anything, like sometimes you're just not feeling it, and sometimes whatever. But I think you've got to turn up for yourself every day, and you've got to have that conviction in what you do. And I think whether you if you believe in it, you're gonna do it. If you don't believe in it, why? What's the point? Don't bother.
Yeah, superb. What about you, Jake?
I've always I can't even remember where it actually came from. I think it was a Steve Vai interview, but I'm not 100% on that. But it was a passion over professionalism.
Nice.
So if you're up there on stage and you're just stood there and you play every note perfectly, great. But people are just watching you stand there.
Yeah.
If you mess up a couple notes, but you put a performance, you can really feel that you're putting your all into it. That's what people will be drawn to. They can see that you're enjoying it. It's infectious. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize when they're starting out. They're like, "Oh, I only know a few chords and all that sort of stuff. Am I good enough to be in a band yet? Am I good enough to go and perform?" Of course you are. I think that's sort of where the entire genre of pop punk really spawned from in the 2000s.
I think
grab a guitar, have some chords, have some fun.
It's not a job. Do you know what I mean? It's not 9 to 5. You're not a carpenter who has to everything has to be perfectly crafted and sanded and just flawless. It's a creative outlet. It's art. You've just got to do it for what it is.
Superb.
Yeah.
Yeah, superb. So what's next then for Quorum?
Well, hopefully we've got plans coming up. Obviously, we're not sure exactly when it will happen yet with everything going on, but we've got the new EP coming out. That's sort of to be confirmed on the date. Like I said, we're waiting for the masters to come back and make sure that it's all happy, and that's why we don't want to announce a date yet.
Have you got a name? Have you got a name for the EP title?
Yeah. Called The Death of Intellectual Success.
Like it.
Yeah, thank you.
We've actually got a few gigs booked provisionally.
Yeah, for the summer we've got a few festivals.
Right.
lined up. We should be playing. I say should now, like nobody really knows what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, we're booked in to play, but I mean, whether it will happen is sort of nothing can be guaranteed at the moment. So what we playing a really big local one called Chadstock, and then Godney Gathering, I believe.
Yeah, we're
which
on
is
that
like
one.
a Glastonbury sort of way, I think.
Okay.
I'm not the most organised of people in the band. But yeah, so we've got quite a few gigs lined up, and yeah, a lot of it is focusing on this launch of, as Jake said, launch of the EP.
Yeah.
Going forward from there, and just trying to keep it going. I mean, hopefully now the sort of world is, fingers crossed, going back to normal as such. We should be looking at just doing as much as we can, because before coronavirus hit and everything went weird, we were really busy. We had gigs sort of every weekend, all the time, which is what we love doing. Like that is.
Yeah, I mean, I played a couple of yours on when I was with Coast FM down here in Penzance.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, I played a few tracks. It was always well received.
Oh,
You know
great.
what I mean? So it's good. It is really good.
Thank
So, final question then, guys. Okay. So, is there anybody you'd like to thank for you guys being here musically now?
That's always a big one, isn't it? If you say anything, you're brilliant to that person, but if you forget one person,
Yeah,
you're their
for
worst
sure.
enemy. That's a dangerous question. I mean, frankly,
Each other. I know it sounds really lame, but like we're all like, we wouldn't do anything if it weren't for each other. Like we're as a unit, as a band. I think the only people we can really, because I mean, we're not signed, we're not massive. There's no one who's like, I mean, we can't say that like anyone's given us a big push and put us anywhere, because we're not. Yeah, I think for me personally, just you lot.
yeah.
That sounds lame. But yeah,
No, I totally get it. We sort of all pushed each other forward in terms of songwriting, in terms of performance and all that. I mean, if I told myself 5 years ago I was going to be in and genuinely enjoy being in an indie pop, like 80s synth band, I would wonder what the hell is going on.
Yeah,
I used to be like a die-hard metalhead.
Yeah, I mean,
You've introduced me to it, you've brought me into it and all that, and you are right. It's stuff that happens when you're around people with different tastes and influences. You grow as musicians together.
sure. Yeah, just thank the band. Thank you lot. Thank and anybody like yourself, anybody who's like played our music, and like anybody who's enjoyed it or taken the time to sit and listen. I mean, we work with a really good guy, a good friend of ours called Josiah Manning at Momentum Studios in Plymouth. He's been instrumental to like us recording wise and creatively.
Really helping us nail down the sound of this latest EP in
Sure.
particular.
Yeah, your dad's been
Yeah.
very supportive, to be fair. He's driven us to a lot of gigs. He's put up with me
Yeah, that's the biggest
being
part.
drunk on the way home from gigs and just talking rubbish. I mean, there is a lot of people, but I think fundamentally are just each other, to be honest. Yeah.
Brilliant. Guys, look, thanks so much for the time.
Yeah.
Great interview. And keep playing like it's Wembley.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you for having us, Greg.
No worries. Take care, guys.
Yeah, you too. See you soon.
Cheers.